My name's Jerry, I'm 38, and I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, in a beige stucco house with a cactus garden out front. I work as a project manager for a construction company, decent pay, long hours. My life revolves around my 7-year-old daughter, Lily, and my wife, Shelley. We've been married 10 years, together for 12. I thought we had a good thing going. Not perfect, nobody's is, but solid. We had our traditions, like Sunday pancakes or sneaking a bottle of wine after Lily went to bed. But about 3 months ago, something changed. It was subtle at first, like a crack in the foundation you don't notice until it's too late. Shelley started pulling away. She's always been the planner, the one who'd have Lily's school lunches packed the night before and our taxes filed by February. But she got distant, distracted. I'd catch her staring at her phone, thumbs hovering, then she'd lock it when I walked by. "What's up?" I'd ask, trying to keep it light. "Nothing, just work," she'd say, her voice flat. She stopped looking me in the eye when she talked. Her smiles, the ones that used to light up her face, were gone, replaced by this tight-lipped thing that didn't reach her eyes. It wasn't just me who noticed. Lily, who's got her mom's big brown eyes and this quiet way of seeing everything, started acting off too. One night, while I was reading her a bedtime story, she tucked her stuffed bunny under her chin and said, "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy laugh anymore?" My heart sank. I didn't know what to say. I pulled her close and said, "Mommy's just got a lot on her mind, sweetie. She's okay. But Lily's too smart for that." Kids feel the shift, even if you try to shield them. I kissed her forehead and turned off the light, but her question stuck with me. I tried to shrug it off at first. Shelley's always been a worrier about money, her job at the insurance agency, her parents' health down in Tucson. I figured maybe a big client was stressing her out or she was dealing with something she didn't want to burden me with. I'd ask, "You okay, Shell? Want to talk?" She'd snap, "I'm fine, Jerry, stop hovering." It wasn't like her to bite my head off, but I let it go. I didn't want to start a fight. We'd had our share of arguments over the years, bills, schedules, whose turn it was to take Lily to soccer, but we always worked through it. I told myself this was just a rough patch. Marriages have those. But the signs kept piling up. Shelley stopped doing the little things that made us, well, us. She used to leave sticky notes on my coffee mug if she left for work early, dumb stuff like, "Don't burn the toast, loser," with a little heart. I'd save them in a drawer like a sap. Those stopped. When I'd try to hug her or kiss her goodnight, she'd stiffen, like she was enduring it. I'd pull back, feeling like I'd done something wrong. Intimacy? Forget it. She'd say she was tired or had a headache, and I'd lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering when my wife turned into a stranger. It got worse. She started staying late at work, saying she had meetings or deadlines. I'm not an idiot. I know insurance agents don't have urgent paperwork at 9 p.m. One Friday, she said she had to grab files from the office. On a Friday night, Lily and I were supposed to have our family movie night, her favorite. She'd picked out Moana and was curled up on the couch with her blanket, waiting. Shelley didn't come home until 11. Lily fell asleep, and when Shelley walked in, she barely looked at me. "Sorry, got held up," she muttered, heading straight to bed. I sat there, the TV flickering, feeling this pit in my stomach. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about her locked phone, her late nights, the way she'd flinch when I touched her. I wanted to believe I was paranoid, that it was all in my head. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Really wrong. I lay there, listening to her soft breathing next to me, and for the first time in years, I felt alone. A week after that Friday night, things got worse. Shelley's distance wasn't just a mood anymore. It was a wall. I'd come home from work, sweaty from a day on site, and she'd barely acknowledge me. No, "How was your day?" or even a glance from her phone. She'd be in the kitchen, scrolling, or holed up in our bedroom, door half closed. I tried to keep things normal for Lily's sake. I'd help with her math homework or take her to the park, but even those moments felt heavy. I was starting to feel like a single dad in my own house. The first real red flag hit me one night after dinner. Shelley said she had to take a work call and went out to the backyard. It was 10 p.m. I was cleaning dishes, glancing out the window, and saw her pacing, her voice low but sharp. She wasn't talking like she was on a work call, more like she was arguing with someone she knew well. I couldn't hear the words, but her body language screamed secrecy. When she came back in, I asked, "Everything okay?" She jumped, like she hadn't seen me there. "Yeah, just a client being a pain," she said, avoiding my eyes. I didn't push, but my gut was screaming. Then there was her behavior. She'd always been affectionate, even in small ways, brushing my arm, leaning against me on the couch. Now, she recoiled if I got too close. I tried initiating something one night after Lily was asleep, just kissing her neck like I used to. She froze, pushed me away, and said, "Jerry, I'm exhausted, okay?" I backed off, but it hurt. We hadn't been intimate in weeks. I started wondering if it was me. Maybe I'd let myself go. Maybe I wasn't enough. But I work out. I'm not a slob. Something else was going on. The kicker came at a barbecue with friends. Our buddy Dave, who's known us since college, pulled me aside while we were grabbing beers from the cooler. He looked uncomfortable, like he was about to ruin my day. "Look, man," he said, "I don't want to stir stuff up, but Shelley's been real close with that guy Reed from her office. I saw them at a coffee shop last week, and it didn't look like a work thing." My stomach dropped. Reed. I'd met him at her company's Christmas party. Mid-40s, slick, the kind of guy who thinks he's charming. I thanked Dave and played it cool, but my mind was racing. After that, I couldn't unsee the signs. Shelley started working late, more often, always with some flimsy excuse. She'd come home smelling like perfume I didn't recognize. Her phone was glued to her hand, and she'd angle it away if I was nearby. One night, I saw a text pop up when she left her phone on the counter. It was from R, and said, "Can't wait to see you." She snatched the phone before I could say anything, but the look on her face, guilt, panic, told me everything. I started losing sleep, lying awake while she slept next to me, her back turned. I'd think about confronting her, but what if I was wrong? What if I blew up our marriage over nothing? I didn't want to be that guy, the jealous husband who can't trust his wife. But the doubts were eating me alive. I'd look at Lily in the morning, her pigtails bouncing as she ate cereal, and feel this ache. I had to protect her, but I didn't know how. All I knew was the life I'd built, the family I loved, was slipping through my fingers, and I couldn't stop it. By mid-September, I couldn't take the not knowing anymore. The late nights, the locked phone, Dave's warning, it was all too much. I wasn't sleeping, barely eating. I'd sit at my desk at work, staring at blueprints, my mind stuck on Shelley and Reed. Confronting her felt like a trap. If I was wrong, I'd look like a paranoid jerk. If I was right, it'd break everything. I needed proof, something solid, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. I found the guy online, a retired cop named Mike with good reviews. We met at a diner off the highway. I felt like I was in a bad movie, sitting there with my coffee, telling him about my wife. I gave him Shelley's schedule, her car details, Reed's name. "Just follow her for a week," I said. "Tell me what's going on." Mike nodded, no judgment, and said he'd call when he had something. Driving home, I felt sick. This was my life now, paying a stranger to spy on my wife. Keeping things normal at home was torture. Shelley was still distant, but she'd put on this fake cheer for Lily, like nothing was wrong. I'd watch her laugh at Lily's stories about school, and it'd kill me. How could she act so normal? I started avoiding her eyes, scared she'd see the suspicion in mine. Lily was my anchor. I'd take her to soccer practice, cheer louder than anyone. But even that felt hollow. I was going through the motions, waiting for Mike's call. A week later, he texted me to meet at the same diner. I got there early, my hands shaking. Mike slid into the booth, dropped a manila envelope on the table, and said, "I'm sorry, man." My heart stopped. I opened the envelope with sweaty fingers. Inside were photos, grainy, but clear enough. Shelley and Reed at a restaurant, his hand on hers. Another of them in a parking lot, kissing against her car. There was a USB drive too. Mike said it had video, but I didn't need to see it. The photos were enough. My wife was cheating on me. I drove home in a daze, the envelope burning a hole in the passenger seat. I kept thinking about our wedding, how she'd cried when I said my vows. About Lily's first birthday, when we'd stayed up all night decorating. How could she throw that away? I was angry, but more than that, I was crushed. I'd given her everything, my trust, my loyalty, my life. And she'd been sneaking around with Reed, probably laughing at what a fool I was. When I got home, Shelley was in the living room, watching TV. She didn't even look up. I wanted to scream, to throw the photos in her face, but I didn't. Not yet. Lily was upstairs, and I wasn't going to let this blow up in front of her. I went to the garage, sat on an old lawn chair, and stared at the photos again. Each one was a knife in my chest. I don't know how long I sat there, but by the time I went back inside, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of this. I'd play along, act like everything was fine, until I was ready to end it. But first, I needed to catch her in the act myself. I needed to see it, to make it real. Because part of me still couldn't believe the woman I loved would do this to me. The next few days were hell. I had the photos, the proof, but I needed to see it for myself. Maybe it was masochistic, but I had to know it wasn't just a mistake, a one-time thing. I kept up the act at home, made breakfast, drove Lily to school, even asked Shelley about her day. She didn't suspect a thing. She'd smile that fake smile, say, "Oh, it was fine," and go back to her phone. Every word she said felt like a lie, and it took everything not to snap. On Thursday, she said she had to meet a client after work. I knew what that meant. I nodded, said, "No problem," and watched her leave, all dolled up in a dress she hadn't worn in years. I called my sister, Jen, to watch Lily, saying I had a work thing. Then I got in my truck and followed Shelley. I stayed a few cars back, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I felt like a stalker, but I had to do this. She drove to a motel off Route 101, one of those cheap places with flickering neon signs. I parked across the street, my heart pounding. A few minutes later, Reed's black SUV pulled in. Shelley got out of her car, looked around, and walked straight to his room. They didn't even try to hide it. I saw her laugh as he opened the door, her hand on his arm. Then they went inside. I sat there, staring at the closed door, feeling like the world was collapsing. My wife was in a motel room with another man. It was real. I don't know how long I stayed. An hour, maybe two. I kept waiting for her to come out, to realize she'd made a mistake, but she didn't. I finally drove home, my mind blank. Jen was still there, watching TV. She asked if I was okay, said I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I mumbled something about work stress and sent her home. Upstairs, I checked on Lily, who was fast asleep, clutching her bunny. I stood there, watching her breathe, and promised myself I'd protect her from this mess. When Shelley got home around midnight, she acted like nothing happened. "Client meeting ran late," she said, kicking off her shoes. I nodded, my jaw tight, and went to bed. I couldn't look at her. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. His name was Paul, a friend of a friend, and he was straight with me. "Get your finances in order," he said. "Document everything. If you've got evidence, it'll help." I told him about the photos, the investigator. He said it was enough to make things clean, especially with Lily involved. I spent the day planning. I'd confront Shelley tomorrow, after Lily went to a sleepover. I'd lay it all out calm, no yelling, and tell her it was over. I also decided to tell Reed's wife, Tracy. I'd found her number through a mutual friend. She deserved to know her husband was a scumbag. I wasn't going to let Shelley and Reed just walk away from this like it was nothing. They'd blown up my life, and I'd make sure they faced the consequences. As I sat in my office, staring at the photos Mike gave me, I felt this cold resolve. I wasn't the same guy anymore. The Jerry who trusted Shelley, who believed in our vows, was gone. And he wasn't coming back. Saturday morning, I dropped Lily off at her friend's house for a sleepover. My hands were steady, but inside, I was a wreck. I'd barely slept, rehearsing what I'd say to Shelley. I'd kept it together all week, pretending everything was fine, but today was the day. I wasn't going to yell or lose it. I'd be calm, show her the evidence, and end this. When I got home, Shelley was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, scrolling on her phone. She looked up and said, "Hey, you're back early." I nodded, my throat tight, and said, "We need to talk." She frowned, put her phone down. "What's wrong?" she asked, like she had no clue. I pulled the manila envelope from my bag and set it on the counter. "Open it," I said. Her face went pale, but she didn't move. I slid it toward her. "Now, Shelley." She opened it with shaking hands, and when she saw the photos, her and Reed at the restaurant, the motel, her eyes went wide. She looked up at me, mouth open, but no words came out. Then, I kid you not, she fainted. Just dropped to the floor like a sack of potatoes. I stood there, stunned. Part of me wanted to help her, but I didn't. I waited. A minute later, she came to, gasping, clutching the counter to pull herself up. "Jerry, I can explain," she stammered, tears streaming down her face. I held up a hand. "Don't," I said. "I've got video too. I followed you to the motel. I saw you with him." Her face crumpled, and she started sobbing, saying, "I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." I let her talk, let her spill her excuses, but it was all noise. I'd heard enough lies. When she finally stopped, I laid it out. "I'm filing for divorce," I said. I've already talked to a lawyer. I know everything, Shelley. You've been cheating for months. She tried to grab my arm, begging, please, Jerry, we can fix this. For Lily. I'll end it with Reed, I swear. I stepped back. You don't get it, I said. There's nothing left to fix. You broke this. She sank to the floor, crying so hard she could barely breathe. I felt nothing. Not pity, not anger, just empty. I told her I'd give her until tomorrow to pack her things. She could stay with her parents or wherever, but she wasn't sleeping in my house anymore. She kept saying, I love you, Jerry, please don't do this. But it was too late. I'd loved her with everything I had, and she'd thrown it away. I wasn't going to let her guilt trip me into staying. I also told her I'd called Tracy, Reed's wife, and sent her the photos. Shelley's eyes widened, like she hadn't even thought about that. You didn't, she whispered. I did, I said. She deserves to know. I walked away, leaving her on the kitchen floor. Upstairs, I sat on our bed, her bed now, I guess, and stared at the wall. I'd done it. I'd said what I needed to say, and it was over. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like I'd lost something I'd never get back. All I could think about was Lily, how I'd explain this to her. I'd promised to tell her the truth, but God, how do you tell a 7-year-old her mom broke her family? I didn't have the answer, but I knew I'd figure it out. For her. The next morning, Shelley was still in the house, but she looked like a ghost. Her eyes were red, her hair a mess. She'd packed a couple of suitcases, but she kept hovering, like she was waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. I'd spent the night on the couch, unable to sleep in our bed. When I saw her in the kitchen, I said, You've got until 8 p.m. to get out. That's 12 hours. She started crying again, saying, Jerry, please, let's talk about this. I cut her off. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. I told her I'd filed for divorce and that my lawyer was pushing for primary custody of Lily. I wasn't going to keep Lily from her, but I wasn't letting Shelley play happy family after what she'd done. I also said I'd told Tracy everything, and from what I'd heard, Tracy had kicked Reed out. Shelley's face went white. You ruined his life too, she whispered. I laughed, bitter. He ruined his own life. And ours. She didn't have a comeback for that. The hardest part was planning what to tell Lily. She was still at her sleepover, but she'd be home tomorrow. I told Shelley I'd be honest with her age-appropriate, but honest. She deserves to know why her mom's leaving, I said. And she gets to choose who she lives with. Shelley begged me not to tell her, said it'd break her heart. You should have thought of that before, I said. I wasn't trying to be cruel, but I was done protecting Shelley's feelings. She'd humiliated me, betrayed our family. She didn't get to call the shots anymore. By afternoon, Shelley's parents showed up to help her move. Her mom, Diane, gave me this sad look, like she wanted to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. Her dad just loaded the suitcases into their car. Shelley tried one last time, standing in the doorway, tears streaming. I'll always love you, Jerry, she said. I didn't answer. I shut the door and locked it. When their car pulled away, I sat on the couch, staring at the empty house. It was too quiet. I spent the rest of the day cleaning up. I stripped the bed, threw out Shelley's old perfume bottles, anything that reminded me of her. I wasn't erasing her for Lily's sake, she'd always be her mom, but I needed a clean slate. I called my lawyer to confirm the divorce papers were in motion. He said we had a strong case, especially with the evidence. I also called Jen, my sister, and told her everything. She was furious, offered to come over, but I said I needed to be alone. I had to process this before Lily got home. That night, I sat in Lily's room, looking at her drawings taped to the wall. One was of the three of us, stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. My chest ached. I didn't know how I'd get through this, but I had to. For her. Shelley had destroyed what we had, but I wasn't going to let her take Lily's future too. I'd fight for my daughter, for our life. As I turned off the light, I felt this strange calm. The worst was over. Now, I just had to figure out what came next. It's been 2 months since Shelley moved out. The divorce is still pending, but it's just paperwork now. I'm sitting in a new apartment, a smaller place closer to Lily's school. It's not much, 2 bedrooms, a balcony with a view of the desert, but it's ours. Lily's in her room, coloring, and I'm trying to put this all into words. I don't know if I'll ever post this, but I need to get it out. Looking back, I can't believe how fast my life changed. 1 minute, I had a wife, a home, a future. Now, it's just me and Lily, starting over. I think a lot about what I gave to my marriage. 12 years of showing up, of choosing Shelley every day. I wasn't perfect. Nobody is. I worked long hours, forgot anniversaries sometimes, but I never broke my vows. I never even thought about it. When I said forever, I meant it. Shelley didn't. That's the part that still hurts, knowing she could throw it all away for some sleaze like Reed. I heard he and Tracy are divorcing too. Good. Let them deal with the mess they made. Telling Lily was the hardest thing I've ever done. I sat her down the day after Shelley left, held her hands, and said, Mommy and Daddy aren't going to live together anymore. Mommy made some choices that hurt our family. I didn't go into details. She's too young, but I didn't lie. She cried, asked if it was her fault. I hugged her tight and said, No, sweetie, this is grown-up stuff. We both love you, and that'll never change. She was quiet for days, but she's tough. She's been opening up more, laughing again. Last week, she said she wanted to stay with me. My lawyer says it'll carry weight with the custody hearing. I hope so. The house is gone. I sold it last month. Too many memories, too much pain. Every room reminded me of Shelley, her laugh, her perfume, her lies. I couldn't stay. Lily and I picked this apartment together. She likes that it's near a park. We're making it our own, one day at a time. I've got her drawings on the fridge, a new couch, a coffee maker that doesn't remind me of sticky notes. It's a start. I'm not going to lie, it's hard. I miss the life I thought we had. I miss the woman I thought Shelley was. But I don't miss her, not the real her. I'm proud of how I handled it. I didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't let her manipulate me. I stood up for myself, for Lily. That's what keeps me going. I'm heartbroken, but I'm not broken. I've got my daughter, my job, a future I can build. I don't know what it'll look like, but I know it'll be honest. As I write this, Lily's calling me from her room, asking if we can make tacos for dinner. I smile, close my laptop, and head in there. She's got her crayons everywhere, a big grin on her face. This is my life now, me and her, figuring it out. I don't know if I'll ever trust someone like I trusted Shelley, but I don't need to worry about that yet. For now, I'm just focusing on being a good dad, a good man. And for the first time in months, that feels like enough.